Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we have an amazing guest, Shane Sterling, on our channel, who will be sharing about his raw veganism journey. He is an amazing health coach. So, he healed himself of a lot of diseases through raw vegan food, and now he's helping so many people to become raw vegan. And he has an amazing YouTube channel called Raw Vegan Rising and a beautiful helpful community also on Facebook channel. I'll be linking down all the ways in which you can reach out to him on in the description and in the comments as well. So welcome, Shane. Would you like to introduce yourself and give a little bit of background about your raw vegan journey?
Hello, hi, so nice to be on. Thank you for inviting me. And I love talking about the power of raw food to help transform our life, not just our health issues, but physically, emotionally, and spiritually transform. And my journey started for two main reasons. One was I needed to reverse some health issues that I had from eating a high protein diet. I had been vegan for many, many years, all the way back to when I was a teenager in the early 1990s, I went vegan. But there was a point in my life where I left that behind. And I decided I was going to follow mainstream sports science and eat a high protein diet and work out at the gym and try to gain muscle. And that caused health problems for me. And I knew I needed to reverse them. And I knew what to do because I had been vegan for so many years. But this time I was going to go raw vegan and I was going to juice fast and clean out my gut and reverse these health problems. That was one reason why I went raw vegan. And I've been raw ever since then. But the other reason was I was working on cultivating self-worth. And I was working with a very talented therapist at the time who was helping me get to deeper levels of my self-worth. And we were at a layer of what was my original wounding. We were talking about how to cultivate self-worth from our original wound. And my therapist asked me, what's your original wound? And I was thinking back to when I was a teenager, the way we treat animals on this planet. And the reason I went vegan at 17 years old was part of my original wounding, like feeling abandoned by our civilization, not liking humanity's actions and feeling so much despair around the way we behave as a society, not feeling like I fit in. And that was so detrimental to me at that time as a young man. And it was my original wounding. So when I touched in on that, I decided, how am I going to serve people from that wounding? And I knew I needed to be a health coach. I knew I needed to be a detoxification coach and help people transform their health and understand through the power of a plant-based diet. And I knew that the way to do that was to be a sustainable, long-term, healthy vegan, not just a junk food vegan eating processed foods, but focus on whole foods exclusively. So that was the journey I embarked on, to reverse my own health problems, but to really educate myself on how to be a plant-based coach and detoxification specialist specifically. Now, I jumped in right away before I had even finished my own healing journey. I started helping others. And now, years later, I've helped hundreds of people through juice fasting and detoxification heal their health problems. I have an incredible membership called Raw Vegan Heroes, which has 550 members right now, people from all over the world who are in this community to learn about raw foods, to transform their health, to do juice fasting. Raw Vegan Heroes is an amazing support system for detoxification because it can be an emotional journey. I went through an emotional detox and transformation myself in this process. And so now I help others with that. And that's where we need accountability, and we need something like a community when we're up against our own limitations and our own fears and our own pressures coming from our family or society to conform and do the normal thing. But if we're going to step out of that, if we're going to step out of the matrix, if we're going to wake ourselves up and have an amazing emotional, spiritual transformation through diet and lifestyle, then we really do need a community and support system around us. And that's why I created Raw Vegan Heroes. And now the cool thing is that it's grown bigger than me. It has a culture of its own. And I'm just so proud to have been the founding member of this community now that serves hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the world. It's really incredible. So that's my journey, is going from my own healing journey, wanting to serve at the point of my original wounding, creating a community to serve others, and now it's grown and become its own entity that helps so many people. So
Yeah,
that's what I have been working on for the last 5 years.
yeah, I think it's amazing how raw vegans usually don't stick with just the food, but expand it to like all areas. You have a purpose that you want to help people, and then there is this component of self-worth that I think a lot of people are like doing a lot of internal work, which I think is really amazing. And we are very grateful that you have a community. I think we really really need community if we are going through this process. Like I have used this. We also have a community in the mountains where we are living, and a lot of people are high raw vegans, and just connecting with people in India is so powerful and empowering, because there can be so many doubts that creep in when you are on this journey. Even when I was going through this process, like in the beginning, I was not sure, because there's like such a deep, like, mind pattern and layer which is already there in the society around food. And to like bypass this, we need like, community like so much. So another question that I wanted to ask based on this as well. So how was your journey? Was it difficult for you to be a pioneer, or did you have help? How was your family responding around when you were transitioning? And usually what have you seen with your clients as well? Do they have difficulty because they don't have a community around them? Because we are a small
The
number.
first
Yeah, go ahead.
The first thing I ask people when they come to me and say, Shane, I want to go raw vegan, or I have a health problem I need to reverse, like I want to embark on this healing transformation, I'm inspired by you, where do I start? What do I do? Or they say to me, I've tried a raw vegan diet in the past, or I've tried a plant-based diet in the past and I couldn't stick with it. The first thing I say is, what accountability do you have in your life? We need an accountability buddy to go through major transformation. Like for me, I'm an entrepreneur. I've always started and run my own businesses. I've been self-employed since I was 24 years old. I'm 48 years old now. So half of my life I've been self-employed. And the only reason that's possible is because I've sought out mentorship with others who have created what I want to create. I've hired business coaches to teach me marketing. I've hired people, worked with people closely who are creating the businesses that I want to create. The same goes for health and transformation of any kind. If we want to go from point A to point B, we have to seek out mentorship of some sort. And mentorship is really an ancient teaching. It's an ancient art form of apprenticeship. It's been happening for hundreds of thousands of years. And whenever we need to up-level our life, improve the quality of our life, make major changes, that's the way to do it. And so it's the first thing I say is, what accountability do you have in your life? And people who are in a lack conversation, or struggling with health, or struggling with isolation, or struggling with self-worth, guarantee 100%, 100% of the time, they don't have any accountability in their life. They don't have any friends that understand what their goals are or their vision is. They don't have community around them. So it's an important factor. And so to get to the point of, is it difficult though? Yes, it is difficult. And that's why we need accountability, because any kind of major transformation we go through is an identity change. We have to literally become a different person to get a different result. We don't get a different result, like becoming a raw vegan, for instance, simply by eating raw food. That, you guys probably know, that doesn't even touch on the transformation that happens emotionally, and
Yeah.
who you have to become, the identity. Our society at large is highly identified with animal products, processed foods, fried foods, and we're told that that's normal and you fit in, and go for that instant pleasure, and let's seek pleasure through these fleeting addictive substances and foods. That's what we're taught in our society. If we're going to be healthy, radically healthy, and we're going to love this sacred temple that is this body that houses our spirit and is our spiritual experience through this body, then then it's imperative that we invest in and that we get the support we need. And it's not easy to do that journey, and it takes time to achieve that. So it is difficult, and I've seen people want it really bad and not get it. I've seen people try and fail. What is the difference? Why does somebody try a raw vegan diet and succeed as opposed to try a raw vegan diet and fail? It's the identity shift that has to happen. The identity shift is what makes a successful raw vegan. An identity shift is what makes anybody successful at anything they do.
Yes.
And all the great coaches talk about this. And one of
Yeah.
my mentors in business, Robert Kiyosaki, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he teaches people how to make money, right? Robert Kiyosaki, I learned that principle from him the very first time I ever understood identity change being related to success was when I read the first book of Robert Kiyosaki's I ever read. And he said to go from an employee to a business owner is a change of identity.
Yeah.
But then to go from a business owner to an investor is also a change of identity. And that's really mind-blowing to me. But the same goes for being a raw vegan or changing our health circumstances or feeling self-worth and worthy of being healthy and vibrant and having this massive spiritual awakening through diet and lifestyle change and pursuing detoxification and health. It's really that inner identity has to shift. So is that easy to shift identity? No way, it's not. And it's not going to happen unless we have accountability. So back to accountability is that identity shift happens because we're in a different environment than the default world that we're born into. I call it the crab bucket analogy. There's a great story, the crab bucket story. Okay, so let me tell this really quick. People will understand this. There's a fisherman on the pier and he's got a bucket of crabs, and there's a stranger walking by and he sees the bucket of crabs. There's no lid on the crabs. And he says to the fisherman, hey, you got to put a lid on that bucket of crabs. They're all going to climb out of there. And the fisherman turns to him and says, no, I don't need to put a lid on the bucket, because if one crab tries to climb out of that bucket, all the other crabs reach up and pull him back down in. That's the same analogy of what's happening to us in society. We are pulled back down. There's a force pulling us into the crab bucket.
Yeah.
If we're going to change our health, become a raw vegan, we've got to change crab buckets. So we want to be around others who are thinking like us and reflect our values back to us and our vehicle of transformation. If we say, I want to transform through food and diet and raw foods and my lifestyle, we've got to surround ourselves with others who are thinking in that same term and can reflect back to us that that's the right path. If we leave it to default, we're going to be surrounded by others who are indulging in these fleeting pleasure-seeking activities like food that leads to, addiction and health problems.
Yeah.
And I always say the person with the biggest vision wins.
Yeah.
So society has a vision, and we're enrolled in that vision. If we don't have a stronger vision than society, we're going to be enrolled in those fried foods and animal foods and pizza and beer and all that stuff. So our vision, literally, of a better way, a higher frequency lifestyle, a higher vibration, that vision is what will keep us on the path of success. So vision, crab bucket, identity change, and accountability. Those are the ways we do it.
Wow.
Oh man, this is like $1 million ideas right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm a coach, so I've been coaching people on these principles for many years, and I consider these principles to be personal leadership principles. These aren't just principles of health.
Yeah,
these are principles of transformation, and it's personal leadership which has taught me these principles. So leadership is saying, no, I'm not going to get what I want unless I create it. Like if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And figuring out how to go from where we are to where we want to go, and that journey unfolding. And these are the principles that support that.
It's amazing. It's really, really inspiring for me, because actually for me, I started with a self-love journey, and that led me to good food. And now I'm on a journey of like financial upgradation. So I'm already in the space where, my purpose of like, giving back to the planet. We have a farm and then we're doing permaculture and self-sustainability. And now I'm like, looking towards also growing financially, because that will help me with my purpose and my health. And of course, that's like evolution of consciousness as well. And just recently I was watching a video in which like I'm also focusing so much right now on the identity shift that you're talking about, the character that that you need to change, and those qualities that you need to bring in yourself and create, everything that you want to create, not just spiritually but as well as materially as well. So this is like a fantastic point, that we need to surround ourselves with people who are really on that journey, so that we can soak in all those mind patterns. And also like identity shift for being a raw vegan is something that never really came in my mind, because as I said, I started with like self-love journey, so I was already working on like elevating my frequency, and then I realized that raw food like does it. So somebody who's not there and then is able to see food for like changing their frequency and identity and bringing in like that whole shift in the identity is an amazing thought process, I think. And thank you so much for sharing that. um yeah, I like it, it's
It's
gonna,
good. It's
yeah,
good stuff.
yeah.
Well, if
So
we're going to cultivate value within ourselves, speaking of abundance, this is one of the main principles of
yeah,
abundance, and I've created great abundance and success in all my businesses.
yeah,
We have to cultivate value within ourselves before we're going to see value reflected in the world outside of us.
yeah,
So if we're struggling with money, it's because we haven't cultivated a sense of value within ourselves, or we don't know where our value is precisely within ourselves.
yeah,
As soon as we cultivate the value within ourselves and we know what that value is and we share that value with others, that turns into money, because money is an exchange. Money just represents the exchange of value.
exactly.
So when we create and cultivate value and share it, then the money is a representation of that exchange of energy.
Yes, certainly, yeah. And
And
it's
that's
so,
abundance. That's actual
yeah,
wealth
exactly.
creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the point that is there, it's just not money, it's like abundance. So it's like abundance of like, in terms of love and like, finances, and not just like finances in terms of money, but like all different kinds of things. It's all about your needs and requirements that are met. Well, anyway, since we're talking more about like raw food journey, I would like to ask you, so a lot of people struggle with detoxification, and then you are a detoxification coach, so probably those inputs would be very much valuable for us. I know that every, person is different, and different kinds of like detoxification process goes depending on our past journey that we've been through. But if there was some, pointers that you would like to send out as message for people to go through this journey easily, and how to choose the detoxification process that they want to have, what would you share?
Well, the body is a holistic system. So the problem people come up against is that the medical establishment tells us that we have a problem with our liver, or we have a problem with our kidneys, or we have a problem with our bowels, or we have a problem with our skin, and these are all separate issues. But if we look at the human organism as a whole, we are just blood, lymph, and cells. The blood brings the nutrition to the cell uses the nutrition and excretes acid waste, and the lymphatic system takes the acid waste out of the cell and out the bowels. That's the entire system of the body. The gut is the root of where all of the digestion and utilization of that food happens, and the nutrition to get it to the blood. So the core foundation of the human body is the gut. Just like a plant and the root system of a plant is the core root foundation of the plant. The same is with our gut. The gut is like a compost, it utilizes all the microbes, and it turns the actively decaying organic matter into nutrients that our cells can use. So the root of all illness is the gut, and therefore the healing of all illness is the gut. So if we need to heal the kidneys, we do it through the gut. And if we need to heal the skin, we do it through the gut. And that would be with any inflammation, degenerative condition. Most of the Western medical narrative diagnoses that we get. And what people don't understand, and where the medical system is just so backwards and wrong and miseducated, is that they have names for different symptoms when it's all the same root cause. So if we get caught up in treating the symptom, we will miss the root cause. So the first step in any detoxification journey is cleaning out the gut. If we have impacted waste, if we have biofilms, if we have mucoid plaques, hardened proteins, old food, then that's where we're going to start. The best way to do that is through juice fasting. Juice fasting is wonderful because it allows our body to get nutrition and calories while eliminating the process of digestion, which allows the body to take all of that calorie, all of that hydration, all of that nutrition, and focus on the elimination process. So the accumulation of waste is what causes disease, and the elimination of waste is what's going to alleviate the disease. And juice fasting eliminates the accumulation of waste very quickly and naturally and effectively. And it's a great place to start for most people's health problems. If we have cysts, tumors, cancers, or any inflammation, we got to get the toxicity out and get the elimination system flowing. So generally, addressing the gut is how we address the other issues in the body. That's where I always start with people.
Okay, so I have like two questions around juice fasting. Eustace has done a lot of juice fasting. He's done like 100 days, 77 days, and we together did 60 days. I'm on the fifth day of my juice fast. He just finished 14 days of juice fast, and he did like some dry fasting as well. So we've experimented a lot with, different kinds of fasting, dry fasting, water fasting. Actually, I made my mother also do a juice fast, and she did more days than me. She did, I think, 80 days. Yeah, and then she lost a lot of weight. She was feeling amazing. So I'm quite pro the idea, but like I have had two examples where for myself there was this one time when I was like transitioning into again, like I did raw food for some time, and then I was including like salts and nuts and everything in that diet, and for some time I was only on fruits, and then suddenly I ate a lot of peanuts, and my kidneys were like really couldn't take it. I had lots of back pain, and then I had to do dry fasting. And after that, what happened is whenever I would drink juice, I would start having kidney pains really fast. Like, I would feel discomfort. So, and then slowly I had to heal my kidneys probably with the fruits, or with the diet. I don't know. You probably could tell more what happened, but now I feel that I am in a position to do it, and that's how I'm doing it. And I have so much faith in the juice fast. But should people of course, I'm sure you would say that people should have coaches, but like if someone wants to do a juice fast, should they go for try it out themselves, or should they do it with coaches? And what are probably some of the markers that they have to think in their head before they're doing it, and how to make this process easy for somebody who is going through health problems as well? If you could answer.
Well, if you're going to embark on a juice fast, it's ideal to get support. This is why I've created my group, Raw Vegan Heroes, because when you join that group, you get an amazing community of people, and the accountability and the crab bucket to help you go through the identity change. But you get the protocol for juice fasting that I've developed over years of helping people empty their GI tracts. I specifically help coach people on how to remove mucoid plaque and biofilms from the GI tract, which is really the essential first step in healing, because we have to increase the absorption and utilization of our food, and we have to increase bowel transit time of raw food. Those are critical steps. Most people are constipated, and that's why they have illnesses. And so getting the proper protocol for that is essential. And even if we're a DIY type person where we want to do it ourselves, we're good at research, we like to go it alone, even in that circumstance, my group, Raw Vegan Heroes, is still an optimal choice, because you get the downloads of the protocol instantly when you sign up, and you can opt into the group and be part of the group or not. Either way, you get the protocol, and it's very, very cheap, very, very affordable. I've made this high value for very little money. If you're going to invest in a juice fast, it's going to take time, money, and effort, and you want to get the most results out of it. So having an expert or some coaching or some professional guidance around how to get the most out of your investment is ideal, because juice fasting is an investment. It's an investment in your health and your future. If you do it right, you pretty much don't have to do it ongoing, because if you really remove the biofilms, you can then focus on rebuilding the gut microbiome on a raw vegan diet, which is going to help the kidneys long-term do filtering. A lot of people, want to get their kidneys filtering. But like I said, we can't focus on the kidneys first. We have to focus on the gut first. The gut is why the kidneys aren't filtering, because the gut is backed up the lymphatic system, and now the kidneys are overburdened with acids. So detoxing the bowels is step number one. And then eating a raw vegan diet is going to naturally over time stimulate the kidneys, regenerate the kidneys, and help the kidneys filter, which is going to help the lymphatic system do its proper waste elimination. So again, it comes back to the bowels first. And I believe eating a raw vegan diet of the right balance of macronutrients is what really is going to heal us long term, because it's what we do consistently over time that is going to get us the results. If we look to juice fasting, and this is a mistake people make about juice fasting, is looking at it as a quick fix. People have spent decades of their life eating improper diets that have resulted in health issues, and now they want to be healed in a month, in a 30 or 40-day juice fast or something. That's not going to happen. A 40-day juice fast isn't going to reverse 2 decades of poor diet, but it will remove the biofilms out of the GI tract so that the natural healing process can happen over time. So eating a raw vegan diet over time is the better strategy than looking at detox as the strategy. Detox is, in my opinion, better thought of as an intervention protocol to help the body prepare for a lifestyle change. And it's that lifestyle change that can really do the healing long term. If we're raw vegan for a month or 2 months, or say even a year, that's not going to be as effective as if we're raw vegan for 4 or 5 years or beyond, because that's going to do the consistent work of helping our body eliminate properly. I also tell people, and this has been based on years of experience with people, is that transitioning from a detox style diet to reverse illness, low fat, high fruit, then to a more balanced macronutrient ratio, maybe of higher fat, say 15 to 20% of the calories from raw nuts and seeds, is almost like a second transition. It takes there's a burden on the body to transition to higher fats. And we do need to have higher fats in the diet, I think, for longevity, and also for muscle mass. And muscle mass is linked to longevity and health. We want to have good muscle mass, especially as we age. I'm almost 50 years old. I'm 49 right now. And I work out at the gym. I'm focused on having good muscle mass for myself, because that makes me feel my best, look my best, keeps my age in check. I look young with muscle mass on me. And it's definitely an important thing to focus on. If we detox too much, we lose our muscle mass, which is going to be a slippery slope. So we want to detox as efficiently, as quickly as possible, use it as an intervention protocol as needed. But ultimately, what does the healing long term, in my opinion, is the proper macro balance of a raw vegan diet. And that does include 15 to 20% fats from calories, is what I think is optimal for myself, at least, and what I coach people on. And then maybe 10 to 15% proteins from raw vegan sources, and the remainder 65 to 75% of your calories from simple carbohydrates from fruits and greens. And to get there, though, is like a second transition, like I was saying. So detox is one transition, and then maintenance and longevity is almost like a second transition. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes focus to hit that plateau. But if you can do it, you're sailing. And then you can work out at the gym. Your absorption and utilization is high. I put on muscle mass very easily as a raw vegan. If I do hypertrophy style training at the gym, where I like really strain and break down the muscle tissue, I build muscle easily. way more easily than eating high protein animal-based diets or supplemented protein style diets, which is what the medical science and the sports science says we're supposed to do. High protein diets for muscle mass, it just creates acidosis and burdens the kidneys and burdens our lymphatic system. A raw vegan diet with proper detox to start off, plus then working out and building muscle mass, that is a recipe for long-term success and feeling and looking amazing well into, midlife and old age. And I'm in midlife now. So most people think I look 30 or 35. I get that all the time. And you stand me next to another gentleman who is 49 years old. We look like we're from different generations. And that's because,
I agree.
right? And that's because I have focused on a whole food plant-based diet for most of my life and focused on proper detoxification of my bowels for proper absorption and utilization of my food, and focused on high raw food and high raw whole food. And that combination plus exercise is the recipe for youthful longevity.
Awesome. Well, that answers one of my question, that how can you put on weight and be like looking good as well? Because I think with detoxification, a lot of people lose a lot of weight. So I also lost a lot of weight, and especially when I left salt. And I think right now I'm kind of like, putting on the weight. And I think we have to kind of go through that process of, detaching with how we look as well for a certain period of time. And then, like, folks, so you can enjoy your looks and your vibrance and your how you look with detachment. And I think like raw food kind of helps you with that as well. So just like a little bit, one question that I wanted to ask related to detoxification and juice fasting was that someone who has hemorrhoids, I have seen that it kind of gets worse if you're going on a long term juice fast. So what would you say, like, why is it, and should they go for a long term juice fast or not? Like, it's a very specific question, but probably then we can move ahead with like more broader questions.
That's a very specific question. Yes. If someone has hemorrhoids, I mean, the strain that the body is under to produce hemorrhoids in the first place is imbalance. It's imbalance in the chemistry of our body. Our body is under stress. Our body has weakened because of this stress. There's no better way than to just instantly go into detoxification and to do the proper steps to reverse and balance out the chemistry in the body. I mean, I guarantee you 100% hemorrhoids are related to acidosis, as all issues are. An alkaline chemistry in the body will not result in these types of problems. And then an alkaline balance in the body will bring the body back into alignment. I mean, it's going to, help us lose weight and bring our skin back and bring the hemorrhoids in. And like all of those factors are just simple byproducts of creating an environment where the body and the biology can operate properly. So we can't focus on an isolated incident like hemorrhoids. I don't think it's helpful to think about how do I reverse or heal hemorrhoids? Yes. Because again, it's like focusing on, well, how do I reverse or heal my kidney problem? That's not the issue. We have to focus on the systemic root of the issue, which is creating an imbalance in the body, which is the gut. Again, it comes to the gut.
Yeah, certainly.
If we're not feeding the gut the proper foods and the gut, here's the bottom line. The gut wants fiber, raw, undenatured fiber, water, and enzymes. That's all the gut really wants. If you just give it raw fruits and vegetables, the gut becomes happy. It feeds that lower bacterial flora in the intestines with non-digestible cellulose. That's what the gut really wants. So that's going to reverse hemorrhoids.
Yeah. So you're suggesting that someone who wants to reverse that, you would say that first go for like a raw vegan diet, and then probably when you're feeling better, then you can go for detoxification and like juice fasting and cleanses.
That's a good strategy. Yes, that was the path that I took. I went raw vegan first for many months until I started to feel detox symptoms set on. And then I used a juice fast to accelerate the detoxification process so I could make it through more quickly. I used it as an intervention protocol to assist in the detoxification process. And then as quickly as possible, I went back to a 100% raw vegan diet, low fat, high fruit diet to continue my detoxification.
Yeah.
And then after about 2 years, I then transitioned to a higher fat ratio, about 20% of my calories from fat, 15% from raw protein sources. And now I'm 65, 20, 15. That's my macro ratio that I generally consume every day. And I've still continued to heal and detox on that. So that process of just raw food, do some intervention detox, stay raw, be consistent, and transition to a maintenance style macro balance as quickly as possible. That's going to heal almost every single illness that we know of in the human organism. And that's going to reverse cancers, diabetes, heart disease, all the inflammation disorders.
Yeah, completely agreed. So Eustace, you want to ask some questions as well?
Yeah, sure. So what is your diet look like right now? Also about what times do you eat as well? I'm curious as well, like how do you start your day? How do you finish your day?
I start my day with a smoothie, and I focus on a high amount of calories first thing in the day, and then I go exercise. So I start my day with about maybe an 800 calorie, maybe 1,000 calorie smoothie, depending on my goal at the time. Sometimes I'm looking to bulk up and gain weight, and sometimes I'm looking to maybe trim down a little. And so I'll adjust my morning smoothie calorie intake based on my goals. But in general, it's about 800 calories. And then I go lift weights. That's the first thing I do, because I put my body under stress first thing in the morning, because it puts my mind in the right state. If I induce stress and anxiety intentionally on my body, the rest of my day is easy. So I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself. I create content. I create value. I work with clients. I produce YouTube videos and other content. So I'm always working. And to always be on and to have a good attitude and to be vibrant for the camera and for content creation, I use exercise to accomplish that. And then I end my day. I usually eat fruits throughout the day. That's usually what I'll have for lunch and throughout the day. And then I end my day usually with salad, green salad, and a lot of it. I usually eat a large salad, and a packet full of protein is what I do. Sprouts, protein-rich greens, and nuts and seeds. I love pumpkin seeds. They're my favorite. I always put pumpkin seeds on my salad. And I sprout a lot too, so I'll add sprouts. And those, I can get up to like 35 grams of protein in a salad, and I consider that high protein. But it's all raw. It's all raw vegan protein. It's just high amino acid, alkalizing to the body. It's wonderful. And that's generally how my day goes. But as an entrepreneur, I'm always working 24/7. It's like if you're self-employed, it takes a lot of vision and drive and inner value. But that's the best thing, because if we work for someone else, we might not be cultivating that sense of value. So for me, being an entrepreneur is the only option. And my whole life revolves around providing value to others. So I'm always looking for ways to contribute, to create valuable content. And when people reach out to me for support and help, I just enfold them in. I tell them how I can help them. I have private coaching programs. I have my group program, Raw Vegan Heroes. I have my top assistant coaches who also have programs to help people. If they can't afford my private coaching, they can work with my top coaches. So I have all the different price points for people, from very inexpensive all the way to my personal top private coaching package. And and so I'm always focused on giving high value and talking to people and creating content and trying to spread the message to the world, because this is my legacy work.
Yes.
What drives me, what gets me out of bed in the morning and drives my day is really my legacy. What's going to happen when I die? What legacy am I going to leave on this planet? How much of a difference can I make? That's what drives me.
And for such a busy person as well, I suppose also that you probably find the high value in raw food just because also it saves you so much time as well, right? In like not cooking, not washing the dishes, like making the smoothie so easy. Just throw things inside and turn it on, and then you can enjoy it while also doing something else as well. So I noticed that people be like, oh, it's convenience food is called what is the fast food and everything, and even for that you need to go to restaurant and things like that. But in reality, the raw food is actually the most convenient food, like the fruit if you take banana, you know, and eat it, like, you know, there is nothing easier than that, you know, like, so I think it's like, you know, very valuable, especially for someone who is, who wants to have, to put more value to the world and to want to have more time as well. And what I also found out that this food doesn't make you, how to say, sluggish or slow or low in energy. It rather gives you energy. Every time I drink some watermelon juice or eat some watermelon or eat some other fruit, like I never feel tired. I that's when, like, you
Yeah.
know, I start doing things like, oh my God, I have so much energy, like let's go and do something, you know. So I think that's one of the also another great benefits for people, that, like, you know, it's actually, it's very convenient. That I believe it's just simply the in many cases people don't are in too much fear as well, like, you know, too much fear, and are also afraid to change their identity and lose their friends, and like, you know, not to fit in the society or the people around them. But once you do it, you find something much more valuable in your life, you know, like, you know, much more, the people that will, like, you know, bring you up, and, like, you know, like what also we are manifesting our own reality, like, you know, when we send out good thoughts, when we put good energy inside of us, like it comes back, you know. So everything, like, you know, is like in a circle. What you send out comes back to you, basically. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I love the topic of that raw food is the ultimate convenience food, because yes, it is. I spend almost no time preparing food. And it's interesting because clients will ask me, I'm starting a raw vegan diet and I'm preparing so much food. It takes so much time. I'm like, what are you even preparing? Forget recipes, eat fruit, eat fruit and salad and make a smoothie. Like
Yeah.
it's as quick as it can possibly be. So I always have to coach people. And when we're first going raw vegan, there can be some mental hurdles that we have to get over before we realize how truly freeing the diet and lifestyle really is. It's total freedom. It makes us feel our best, endless energy, no food prep time. It's freedom. And it's wonderful. And I've always been someone who is busy, like wanting to create value and wanting to build my businesses. And so I've never liked cooking. And so for me, a raw vegan diet was like a huge epiphany, that I didn't have to cook. I didn't have to spend time washing greasy dishes. That's amazing. I
You don't
love that.
you don't need all the pots and pans and utensils as well. Like, you can keep your kitchen
Yeah.
very, like, you know, minimalistic also and clean. It's like, you save, actually you can save money like that as well, because if you buy seasonal fruits, for example, in most cases, in most places around the world, it can be really cheap as well, and like, yeah, so convenient as well. You simply, yeah, you save so
It's
much. And
wonderful.
the kitchen,
Yeah,
just
it's
to set up the
wonderful.
kitchen, this costs so much as well. People spend tons of thousands of dollars just for the setting up of the kitchen, which is like, you know, for us, we're using mostly cutting board, knife, and one bowl. Like, and we have a juicer, of course.
That's it. I have my
That's it.
favorite cutting board, my favorite knife, and my favorite bowl, and my
Yes.
sprouting jars. That's all I have, you know?
And then like
Wonderful.
invest in a good juicer.
And a good juicer and a good blender. Yeah, those are
Yeah.
my two favorite
Which
appliances.
which juicer and which blender do you use? Which is your
I
preference?
use the I use the Vitamix Pro 750, which is their top of the line model. I just plunk down that money. It's an expensive blender, but it's worth every penny. I'd buy it again 10 times over. And then the juicer I use is the Green Star Elite by Tribest, which is a
Oh.
twin gear slow masticating juicer. It's exceptional at juicing greens. So if I don't want to eat a lot of greens, I can juice them and it's wonderful. But for fruits, I will eat fruits. I generally don't juice fruit as much. I juice greens and I eat fruit. That's my strategy, because I
Fruits are
love
very,
eating.
yes, yes. The fibers are also very soft from the fruit, so the greens
Yeah,
could
the
be a bit
fruit is
more
so
harder.
easy
Yeah.
to digest. Yeah, so we might as well take advantage of all that wonderful fiber for our gut, but it's not as easy to eat the volume of greens. So I make green juice and eat my fruits, and that's my strategy. And the other thing I wanted to say is that on my content, I make content on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and people always say to me, the number one comment I get when I talk about a raw vegan diet, I think it's important to address, is people feel like they're giving up something of pleasure. Like, well, I'd rather die than not have the pleasure of cooked food and cooked meat. But
Yeah,
what that
that's how
means,
addicted it is actually.
right? And so people say things to me like, they say things like, I would rather die than give up my favorite food. But the interesting thing is that we've already died. We've already given up on ourselves if we're not investing in our health. And it's a great irony. And I think it's one of the great ironies and catch-22s of our modern society is that we're seeking pleasure in the wrong source. We're seeking pleasure from addictive foods rather than seeking value and fulfillment, which leads to long-lasting happiness. So a raw vegan diet is the strategy to find true fulfillment and happiness and leave the addictive temporary pleasure seeking aside and seek real lasting pleasure, which is not glamorous. It's not very entertaining even. It's just raw fruits and vegetables. And that actually cultivates an incredible sense of value and enjoyment when you get over that hurdle. So humanity is really in a catch-22. We are in a stuck place with our food and our pleasure seeking through food. And so it's one of the reasons why I really enjoy talking about it, to help, if I could help one person understand the real fulfillment and the real value and the real enjoyment from a raw vegan diet. And then I feel like my work is done. You know, people need it.
Yeah. I mean, I think everything about our society needs to be like, kind of redefined and recorrected because like from food to what we wear, from the things that we're consuming, we're over consuming. It's like a huge shift that needs to be made, and it kind of gives me a conviction that okay, if society is doing something, I can question it. And like, since raw food is like something that is very questionable, if I like, if I tell people, they will ask me, are you malnourished? I'm like, oh, come on, man, I haven't felt better in my life with food. So like this kind of change of like, not considering food to be something that gives you pleasure, but nourishes you and like true satisfaction. Oh my God, like, you eat something that is unhealthy and it just like overstimulation in your tongue, and you really don't get that fulfillment and satisfaction. You probably feel sedated, and we're addicted to that feeling of sedation, and we're looking for it because probably we don't have like fulfillment in life. We don't have that vibrance, in life. And so we're just like numbing ourselves down with food and using it for like, distracting. And once you start eating raw food, slowly this transition comes in where you're seeing it as nutrition, and actually you're much more fulfilled eating it. It's like you're crazy about like different kinds of durians that you can eat. And then like we make a lot of joke about sapotas, and like they are like chocolatey, and then they are vanilla in flavor, and like mangoes, each mango tastes different, and there's actually so much variety that you're tasting even in the raw food, even if you're just eating fruits. So it's like change in the personality, as you said, and identity that happens as you change your taste buds as well, because you are what you eat.
Yes.
Right. So
It's
another
so
question, that since we're talking about like detoxification a lot, is I wanted to ask, what do you think about enemas?
Well, enemas are going to address the lower intestinal tract. I mean, the entire digestive system is 32 feet long, right? So colonics and enemas are going to address the colon, and there's value in supporting the colon with detoxification, with elimination, but it's not going to be as effective as people think, because what about the other, 30 feet of intestinal tract? How do we cleanse that? How do we get into that? That's where juice fasting comes in. I believe the biofilms really are produced in the small intestines, way up in the digestive tract. When food leaves the stomach, it goes into the small intestine and it's continued to digest there. And if there's overgrowth of bacteria, it's going to create biofilm. If there's an imbalance from starches and animal products, then there's going to be biofilms. And that's where it's produced. And so that's way up there. Enemas cannot address the source of the real biofilm and plaque that accumulates in the digestive system. So that's why I think juice fasting is a better strategy for cleansing the bowels than enemas. I recommend that if you're experiencing heavy detox symptoms and you're going through cold and flu-like symptoms, we want to support the organ of elimination, the main organ of elimination, as best as possible. So doing an enema at that time is supportive, but we don't want to make the mistake of thinking an enema is adequate for truly cleansing the digestive system.
Yeah.
So if we're eating crappy food and then we're like, oh, I got to do an enema to clean it out, that's not really going to be adequate,
Yeah.
Yes.
And what do you think? It also affects your gut microbiome, and then do you need to like put in something along with enema if you're doing enemas for maintaining your gut microbiome?
Well, the best way to feed the microbiome in the lower intestines is through raw fiber, non-digestible cellulose fiber. The insoluble fiber in fruits and vegetables is what feeds the bacteria in the lower intestines. So again, just eating a raw vegan diet is going to produce the best probiotic results.
Yeah.
Taking capsules or putting probiotics in our enema water or whatever we might do to try to reintroduce flora, that's not going to be as effective as just taking the flora that's already there and feeding them and allowing them to grow. That's really the only way to do it. I don't think we can take probiotics. And so as a coach, I don't recommend taking probiotics to people to rebuild the gut microbiome at all. I recommend diet and lifestyle choices for building the gut microbiome.
So I had the question, what about your sleep? How has it changed throughout the years? And now you're a busy person as well. How much do you sleep? How much rest do you give yourself? Because you're also working out. And I'm wondering, because before I was also working out and resting was a big part. And but I also noticed that when you eating raw vegan food, your recovery is much faster as well. So I wanted to ask, what is your sleep patterns?
Yeah, absolutely. So I sleep less than I used to. As a cooked food eater, I would need 8 or 9 or 10 hours sometimes. Now on raw food, I can really go 6 or 7 hours generally. I don't find myself sleeping a full 8 hours very much anymore. Once in a while, if I need to catch up on sleep, I'll sleep for 8 hours. But I feel very well rested on 6 hours of sleep, and that's unusual considering I do work out. I lift heavy weights at the gym. I put a lot of effort into my workout routines, and my body does need recovery time. But I find my recovery on raw food is phenomenal. My muscle soreness is a lot lower. My muscles recover way quicker, and it's really something that's developed over time. When I first went raw vegan, my sleep felt disrupted, and I was nervous about how little sleep I was getting. And through detox, my sleep was uncomfortable and I wouldn't feel properly rested. But over time, I'd say after 2 years, my sleep started to feel restful and I would need less of it. So it's a great thing to look forward to. Just like the convenience of not needing so much time in the kitchen, we don't need quite as much time sleeping. That's what I found.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, and I think sleep is very, very important for healing. I think that is the time that we heal as well. So when we reduce our healing, needs, then we kind of reduce our sleeping time as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So
well, the body detoxifies during sleep, and if we are having a detoxifying lifestyle already, then we're not going to need to dedicate so much time to detox in our sleep. So it makes sense that we would just need less sleep eating a raw vegan diet.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
So what are the few books or, inspiring people that you would like to recommend people for going on a raw food diet, or probably some books that kind of helped you a lot in your journey as well?
I have an entire collection of books that I recommend to clients and people who follow me in an Amazon store. So I have an Amazon store that not only has a book selection, but it has all the supplements that I recommend, the superfoods that I choose to eat, the kitchen tools that I use. It's all in categories. And that is amazon.com/shop/raw-vegan-rising.
Awesome.
If you go there, I have a list of maybe 15 books that I think are essential, books that I personally have gained much value from. The first 2 books on the list are not even books about raw food. But the first 2 most important books that I think there are the first book is called The Fourth Turning, and it's about the cycles of the human speculum. It's probably the most profound book I've ever written or read, and it was written by a Yale graduate who was doing a research study on repeating cycles of time, and he happened to come across this repeating pattern that he saw in society and in human evolution, And he wrote this book called The Fourth Turning, and it is truly inspiring, profound, helpful, and maybe the most important book I've ever read. And the second book is called A Course in Miracles, which is a wonderful book, a channeled book about understanding the ego and how the ego gets in our way. Those are my number 1 and 2. And then from there, I go into raw food, because again, this is a spiritual journey. We're spiritual beings where we need to understand the nature of our reality properly in order to even perceive a raw vegan diet as the correct choice. Most people are struggling with even perceiving reality correctly.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't even think of a raw vegan diet as a proper choice because they're looking through a distorted lens. So I believe the 2 first books on my list are important, helpful tools to undistort the lens to where we can even get to the concepts of raw food. But my all-time number 1 favorite raw book that inspired me to go raw many years ago is called The Essene Gospel of Peace. It's a funny story because I was about 30 years old and I was walking down the street. I was not a raw vegan at the time. I wasn't even vegan. It was a time in my life where I had gone back to animal products. I was in like a low self-esteem place, and I was struggling financially, and I didn't have the bandwidth to be vegan or eat healthy at that time. And I was on the street, and this guy pulled up in this like caravan. He was obviously living in his van, and he got out and he saw me and he tossed this book over to me like 10 feet away. He threw this book at me and I caught it. And he said, "Here, I think you need to read this."
Wow.
And it was the Essene Gospel of Peace. And the cover art was Gustave Doré, his engraving. And I was a big Gustave Doré fan at the time. And I thought, oh, well, I should probably read this. So I went back and read it later, and it completely changed my entire perception of reality, that book. It felt like I had gotten a massive download the first time I read the Essene Gospel of Peace. And I read it over and over and over. And at that time, I was 30. I didn't go raw vegan until I was 44. It took me 14 years from when I knew raw food was the right answer for me to actually being able to implement it. It was too daunting. It seemed like it was a lifestyle for monks who lived on a mountaintop or something. I couldn't quite grasp the reality of it.
Yes, but the seed was planted.
Yeah.
The seed was planted, and boy, it took hold. I was never able to get away from the concept of raw food after reading that book. I knew I would be a raw vegan at some point in my life from that book.
Oh, amazing. We'll have to check it out also. We haven't read these books. It's like our read list is quite long now, so we have also like we're going through lots of books right now as well, and also when you what I learned, when you eat more raw food, you get more concentration and you get more awareness, and you really wish to learn more. You want to expand your consciousness. And actually, one of the books that we also recommend, maybe you have read it, is called Handbook to Higher Consciousness. So it's by Ken Keyes, and this book is like actually like one of the core books for our community. Almost everyone in our community, Gaia Expanding Consciousness, read this book. And if you haven't read it, I highly suggest you also check it out. It's like it's really like it's like the title says what it is actually, basically. Yeah. So Handbook to Higher Consciousness is like for all the viewers, I recommend as well, like, to check it out. It's a really amazing book. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's always a journey of the consciousness, and then food is kind of a helper for us to like spiritually grow, and to have our focus over there is like so important, because all sicknesses, all problems first come in consciousness, then they move in the emotional body, and then they manifest in the physical body. So you can work through food to like, heal yourself through the physical body, but you have to constantly, always the main object that you have to remember is that, it's a spiritual journey, and, expanding your consciousness and like moving to that divinity. I really love it because a lot of people, online don't use these words, but you're always talking about, divinity and divine synchronicity and our divine purpose. And these are the words that like, kind of resonate a lot with me. And I think we need to bring it like, because people think that what is amazing is like, let's like, don't want to use the word, but like, like destroy our body. And, that's the trend. If you're talking about health, that's not something that people look up to. If you're talking about like divinity, they're like, oh, what, what's up with you? What's wrong with you? So I like when people, bring in that kind of thinking that you're bringing through your channel and through your ideas. It's amazing.
Yes.
You're always talking about purpose and like, grounding yourself inside, and it's really, really inspiring
Yes,
for
like
us.
I found your channel a long time ago, like I think maybe more than like almost 2 years back, and then since then I was watching your channel like almost like like almost every video, and it's like for me it's really amazing that how you always like the food is just a way for us to go to something higher. You're always talking about a
Yeah.
step ahead.
Yeah.
So like it's like
Yes.
that's the vision part that you are also trying to create like in people's minds that oh there is something better than this. There is so like it's very important to keep this positive thinking and like the vision beyond where we are.
Yeah.
So because otherwise we are always stuck where we are. So like it's always like every time I'm doing something like I'm doing some experiments with food or like with my consciousness or different practices, I always think what is the next step, like what is the step ahead, because
Yes.
we cannot get comfortable wherever we are. We need to keep on looking beyond that and trying to reach for something higher as well.
Yes.
Yeah, well, there's the the indigenous wisdom that we think 7 generations ahead. I mean, we should always be thinking ahead. How are we serving the generations that come after us?
Exactly.
I almost feel like I'm a time traveler in a way, because I feel like I've come from the future. I have a vision of the evolved humanity that could potentially exist 10,000 years from now.
Wow.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yes.
interested in where our ancestors have been. I think ahead.
Yeah.
And part of the argument I always get in the health world around carnivore and what the caveman ate and all this stuff is based on the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the past is painful. Let's get out of the past. We want to be focused on a vision of the future that we want to create intentionally.
Yeah, the entire carnivore idea is also kind of based more on survival rather than thriving. It's scarcity mindset that people are talking about, and also like it's
completely scarcity.
It's like it's unsustainable as well. Like how can you like look at like all the other beings and see them as like a resource for you to be like as food? It's like
it doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. I know how much.
I haven't thought of animals as food really, and for many years of my life, and it's really a survival scarcity mindset. Exactly correct. And to be in abundance, we want to think of the simplest form of nutrition, which is the basic form of plants, and that minerals and nutrition come from the soil. And if we think that way, we don't need secondary survival sources of nutrition at all. It all comes from plants. It all comes from our gut microflora. And that's where we find the higher consciousness. The next step and the vision for the future is in less density, more nutrition, less density. I think humans are going to be juice and raw food based in the future. I honestly think we're going to be beings of light. We're going to live on light prana energy and barely eat anything probably in the future. That's what I think.
Yeah, beautiful, man. I think this is a great vision and message to share. This is something that I keep in my heart as well. And just putting out these thoughts like to expand consciousness so that it becomes a seed in more and more people, and then you're doing it constantly.
Yeah.
It's freaking amazing. We also like kind of envision that kind of a future, and that's what we were working on as well, like expanding consciousness, working on the soil and becoming self-sustainable, propagating the idea of like raw food and living off the grid, away from the internet, like really going inside more and more and synchronizing so much more with planet Earth and like circadian rhythm and like focusing on all aspects of life and connecting with nature. So actually, and also since you mentioned about like seeing animals as food, I've been a vegetarian all my life. I was born in a vegetarian family, and for me they were never food. Like even now, if like you put a dead animal on the plate, I would puke. And it's like there is such a big taboo in my family. It's like my mother, she cannot go to restaurants where they're cutting animals. So in India, it's amazing that we already have that fabric, and it shows that we have been doing this for years. We like all my ancestors never ate meat. So like we don't need meat. Like it's so clear even in our history, and then history is also so biased, you know. It's
Where
like
do they get your protein?
that is the first
Yeah.
question that people would ask.
I think eating meat comes from emotional wounding. I think
Yeah.
we're emotionally traumatized, and therefore we turn to the lower vibrational
Definitely.
survival scarcity mindset for our
Yeah.
solution. We're not coming from a place of self-worth and value. We're coming from wounding. And I
Yeah.
think the more meat we eat, the more animals we kill, the more wounded we are. And so
Yes.
it's a cycle that takes us on a downward spiral
Yeah.
to despair and self-abuse
Yeah.
ultimately. And
Yes.
meat eating is definitely, close to also, alcohol and other addictive self-abuse type of behaviors. It's
Definitely.
all intertwined.
Yes.
Yes, yes, that's
Yeah.
the way we see it also. And like mostly like we will see like people will start eating raw food and they might be like still drinking some alcohol, but eventually like they get off that just naturally, like or it happens automatically by itself.
Yes.
Like I myself also
Yeah.
like I didn't have much drinking, have so much time drinking in my life. I had, like when I was in college for 2 years, I was drinking maybe like almost every weekend, but not every weekend, but like never like drinking like too much also. But like when I started, like now it's I think like the last more than 3 years, I didn't have like any alcohol like whatsoever, and
Yeah.
even then I would like I remember like I was eating mostly raw food, and then I just had some beer. I was like, why was I drinking that not before? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Well, and as
tried.
a raw vegan, you're
Yeah.
detoxing continually, so you become very sensitive to any toxicity that comes into your body. So you're more aware of it,
Yeah.
and you're not as quick to put poisons in your body because you've spent so much investing in
Yeah. And
cleaning and
yeah.
eating healthy.
Correct, correct. And
So
you feel high without anything, so you don't need anything, you know. Actually, it doesn't really make you high. It kind of lowers your consciousness, but like your consciousness is constantly getting higher the longer you eat raw foods. So I think then you don't need any other substance, you know, to cope up with your emotional needs. And also, I think Eustace tried beer when he was juice
Ah,
fasting.
yes, my
So
first juice fast day on day three of my
that's when he
first.
stopped.
I was like, we went to the bar, and it was just because of social. Like I didn't have a plan to drink a beer. It was just because like me and friends went, and one guy in front of me was eating like chicken, basically, like some fried chicken, and then like my friend was a vegetarian, like it was my it's long time friend, and then he's like, let's get some beers, and then he got like we got this 6 small bottles of beers, like for three of us, and then like I drank maybe this much of the bottle, like just a little bit, and then I start feeling this burning, like burning coming all the way from here, going down, and it goes directly to your gut because you don't have nothing in your stomach. You have like your only it was only juices like for the past 3 days. So like there is no usually what people do when they drink alcohol, they also have meat or like fried foods or something like roasted nuts or things like that, something dense to something
yes.
fatty to take that alcohol basically. I didn't have anything, so I could feel it instantly. So I was like, oh my god, it's like feeling so bad.
Yeah.
So like so that was the one of the like that was one of the last times I had a beer. It was my first juice fast when I was doing 14 days, and on day 3 I was like they had some beer, and I'm like, no, it's like even though it's liquid, I'm not gonna drink it.
Yeah, that's not a good thing to combine with juice fasting.
No.
Certainly. All right. I think these are all mostly the questions that we wanted to ask you. Maybe just the last question, two last questions. Where would you like people to reach you? You can share all the information. I'll put it all in the description as well as in the comments. And any last message that you would like to, you know, give to people, one thing that you would want to, you know, spread it out.
Yes, well, find me on my website, rawveganrising.com. There on my landing page, you can sign up for a free video course that I have made absolutely free on how to go raw vegan. It's called How to Go Raw Vegan. Start here. So you enter your name and email. You can unsubscribe at any time, but you get the first video instantly, and there's 6 videos in the course. And I talk about the principles you need to understand to be a successful raw vegan. It's a very inspiring video course, and it's just my give to anyone who wants it. Also on my website, there's a membership tab, and you should look at that because the membership, Raw Vegan Heroes, is the best juice fasting support, detoxification support in the world for the money. It's a very inexpensive group to be part of with excellent coaching, world-class coaching. I have 3 coaches in there, plus myself. And the value you get in that group is immense. And if you click on that, you'll see everything you get. It's really cool. Highly recommend it. Also, I'm on YouTube as Raw Vegan Rising. I'm on Instagram as Raw Vegan Rising. And I encourage people to, find me and reach out and connect if anybody's interested. And if there was one parting message, it would be really to cultivate value within ourselves through the choices of our food, and to love ourselves and to invest in this sacred temple. And the more love we give this temple, the more love we will get back. And it can open up our understanding of our purpose and our fulfillment to use food as a lifestyle choice to further our consciousness and to wake up. And I've had immense spiritual awakening experiences on a vegan diet and on a raw food diet, and having spiritual awakening experiences is what we really all want. And if we just find the inspiration to love ourselves, we're going to get immense gifts from the universe, and it's worth it. It's worth the hard work. It's worth the learning curve. It's worth whatever you have to do to learn how to be a raw vegan, in my opinion, worth every single bit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shane, for taking time out and sharing all of this wisdom with all our, audience and with us. And guys, do like and subscribe to my channel and follow him as well, wherever, you want to become a part of his group. And I would say bye to you all. Thank you so much for watching. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye-bye.